My name is Carina Gardner, and I'm what you would call a practical designer. If you're ready to create a life that you love, become an incredible force for good, and generate income while pursuing your dreams, this is the podcast for you. Welcome to Make and Design.
Hey designers, today I want to talk to you about revitalizing your creative process. I've been in the trenches of finishing the methodology for creative innovations and color course that's going into the University of Arts and Design Business. And I have a whole section, basically the second part of the semester is devoted to the artist way. Now, we are doing other things in that class. In fact, it's 4 classes because there's 2 classes, 204 and 205, that's dedicated to the design certificate. And then there are 2 classes in the master's degree. And let me tell you about the differences. And then I'm going to dig into the artist way because I think a lot of you could really benefit from this creative process, whether you're in the university or not. And I want it to help you. So just so you know, 204 is the class is called, the base class is called Methodology for Creative Innovation and Color Theory. And then 204 has at the end of it for Digital Technology. The second one is the same title, but at the end of it says for Visual Art. And the same thing in the master's degree. The only difference between the two is projects, papers, and analysis. In the master's degree, there's quite a bit more that we're doing in terms of analysis. But in terms of lecture and stuff like that, that's a lot of the same stuff. So the first quarter of the course, the first 8 weeks, are dedicated to color theory. And we are painting. So it's like old school. We've got acrylic paints out. We're painting all of our different things. We're learning how to do tints and shades. And then we're also working on the computer so we understand how we can change and transform our colors digitally. The second part of the class is really dedicated to the methodology of creative innovation. And so we kick it off with the artist's way. And there's a lesson almost every week that continues the artist's way. But in the midst of that, we are also doing, in the digital technology class, the focus is on AI, understanding how to use it, how to become better with it, how it can really transform what you're doing. And right now, I think AI is so new that I personally have to be dedicated to updating this particular class really often because the AI is changing so quickly that I'm having to go in and change things on the monthly. So that's been really interesting. The second book we're doing in that class is Temple Grandin's Visual Thinking class. Book. She has a book. So in digital technology, we're going to talk about that. The second course, which is 205 in the design certificate, I can't remember what the number is in the master's degree. It's for visual arts. The only big difference is we instead work on a book called The Art of You. And it is by James McCrae. And so we don't do Temple Grandin's book in that class. And we spend more time understanding how to take physical products, physical art, and changing it into products that work in the digital realm. So it's really understanding marketplace. So the second quarter of content is really different. But the reason I chose the artist way, and I think it maybe is just this whole idea of going back to being in a university or an academic setting. The first time I did the artist way, I think I was working on my master's or my PhD at the University of Minnesota. And it's called The Artist Way, A Spiritual Path to Higher Creativity. And back then I did the 2 things that she wanted me to do and found it really helpful. And then I got away from it for many, many years. So coming back to it and doing it again has been very interesting, really, really interesting. And so if you've never read The Artist's Way, she really says there are 2 things that you should be doing in order to get your creative process back. The first is what she calls morning pages. What it is longhand writing, stream of conscious writing for 3 pages every morning before you start your day. Her theory is that when you do this, you get out all the stuff that's going on in your head and your heart, and it's getting put onto the page so that you can move through your day quite a bit lighter. The second thing she has you do is the artist date. What this is 2 hours by yourself doing something that will help your creative inner child. And she recommends that you go do something interesting and different. It does not have to be monetarily related. And she says this revitalizes and refuels you inside. And I think this is the first time. I mean, I know she talks about it, and I was much younger when I did this the first time, but something about doing it this time has really kindled in me this whole idea of we have to take things out of us that are negative and difficult in order to put things back into us so that we're not a shell of a human being. Now, I say shell because I've been to therapy and talked about people that have ended up being shells, and they're people in my life. And it's because they're doing all the things that everybody expects them to do. They're doing the things that don't necessarily make them happy, but they're just going through the motions. And as we get older, if we're not careful, because our adult side is trying to be responsible, trying to be good, we find that we take away some of those creative inhibitions or those creative moments because we're trying to do what looks good, what adulting really looks like. And instead of feeding that inner child that is creative and an artist, we lose some of our ability to imagine what life could be, what you could do, and the artistic things that you want in your life. And so by doing the morning pages, like therapy every morning, getting it out of your system, and I can't remember what I did the first time, but this time it really struck me as I was reading the book, how much she emphasizes that these morning pages can be self-pitying. They can be horrible. They can be angry. They can be sad. There's a lot of actual negative emotions that can be in these pages, and they should be if you're feeling it. If you're feeling happy and you're feeling elated, then that's okay as well. Like those can show up in the morning pages as well. But the point is to continue to do them because they are going to get out what's really happening inside of you. She talks about your real feelings versus your official feelings. And I can totally attest to this, that there are real feelings going on that very often you don't get to tell everybody. There are official feelings about the way you feel about people in your life that you don't get to say anything about. And the morning pages is where you get to be really honest about where your real feelings are about people in your life, about yourself, your own inner belief system, and things that have happened to you that have stoppered up everything that you're doing. The thing that I find interesting, especially since I've owned Design Suite now for 3 years, is this idea that we have to get everything out of our system in order to allow creativity back into the system. I know for a fact this is true because the number of times I've talked to designers who are like, I just feel like I'm so not creative right now. Everything feels really hard. And I'll be like, well, tell me what's going on. And inevitably, there's something going on in their family. There's something going on with one of their kids. They're having a difficulty with their spouse or their partner. Their parents are very ill. And so there's all this personal stuff going on that's stopping up the creativity. And so the morning pages at this juncture in my life suddenly seem like such a good answer to the creative process and the creative blockage that many of us might feel. When we feel like things are really hard, it's usually not because the artwork feels hard. It's not because the design work feels hard. It's because other things in our life, it's hard. And so we're trying to figure out ways to get past it, but it's really difficult because it's consuming our heart and it's consuming our mind. And that's really what I've gotten out of the Artist Way this time. Talk to me in 20 years and let me see what I think about it 20 years from now. But it's interesting revisiting it now, 20 years after grad school, and seeing that I see it so differently, that a little bit of life experience, because I was in my 20s when I did my doctorate, a little bit of life experience really does change the way I view the way this can work in my life. And yes, I have been doing morning pages again. And yes, I have been scheduling artist dates for myself, and I have been delighted by both. Now, I will say this about morning pages. She talks about there being a time period where it just doesn't feel very good. It feels kind of yucky. And that's usually around the 4 to 5 week mark. There's kind of an epiphany of like how something is in your life, and you finally have to face it. I have not gotten to that point again here in doing this, and I am actually curious to see where it takes me. But she says that there is some self-loathing involved, and there's pity involved, and there's anger involved, especially in that epiphany. And so it opens the doorway, and people don't think of this, but it opens the doorway to the ending of something, which is actually really good, because wherever there's an ending, there's also a beginning. And that is actually a very important process in our life. That's why there are seasons in our lives where we're doing one thing, and then a new season comes upon it, and it can be a really glorious thing. And for me, just thinking back to my seasons, just the most recent season, which was for the last 3 years owning and running Design Suite, that was not a season I thought I was going to come into. You know, I was very happy as a designer, and coming back into the education space, that was a really interesting thing that this new season happened to me. And now I find myself into a new season, which is this university that it just requires a different set of talents, a different set of leadership skills that quite frankly, I don't have yet. But if it's anything like the Design Suite season, which, by the way, everyone asks me, like, is Design Suite going away? No. Design Suite is professional development, and it is not going away. But if someone had told me all the things I would learn about leading a team, about trying to do what was right, about trying to help people and educate people in ways that they didn't know they could be educated, I wouldn't have believed it. And it's had such a significant impact on my life. And so I am really excited to continue that process. Now, if you're feeling creatively blocked, I cannot recommend enough for you to go grab this book. Go order it on Amazon or go get it at your local store. I'm sure I have an Artist Way hanging out somewhere in my house, but I don't know where it is. So I actually reordered the book a few weeks ago and ordered a lecture for the class and reread it. And it meant something different to me this time. And I'm really grateful for that. And I cannot recommend enough starting morning pages and an artist date, and see if it revitalizes you. If you don't find in your heart all the things that you really wanted to do in your life, if it comes back to you. So that's my hope for you. I hope you have an amazing day, and I will see you soon.
Did you know you have access to more free design content, die cut files, and sewing patterns? Join our exclusive VIP group for free by going to designsuitecourses.com/free.